and spicy mockingbirds. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm gonna do something a little different today. I'm excited for this video. I've actually been thinking about it for a really long time. I was gonna put this out when the new live action Mulan came out, but fortunately that's just not gonna happen probably this year. So in honor of it not coming out, I guess, I wanted to do this video. So before we begin, like and subscribe, that would be great. You can check out my other videos up here if you enjoy. Put on the bell to get notifications when I put my videos up. I would just really love that because I just love doing these videos and I enjoy talking to you guys. So not too long ago, I was watching a couple Mulan videos. One specifically that I was watching was the honest trailer of Mulan. And let me just say, I hadn't revisited Mulan in probably oh my god, 15 years. So I like Disney stuff. I've seen all Disney, everything that you can imagine. I'm not a big fan of rewatching things. I'm not a big Disney princess fan. You know, I love it and I grew up with it, but I'm just not. Thinking about watching Cinderella is just oh, I feel like it would be so much work. But I am a 90s kid. I grew up in the girl power Disney age, Mulan, Aladdin, even though I know Aladdin's not a Disney princess, but Jasmine, Lion King, cause Nala, and just kind of the resurgence of Disney. And I actually I had a dollhouse, and I actually had some paper dolls, and specifically I had a Chinese doll with traditional Chinese garments, and it wasn't Mulan, it wasn't a Disney, it was a doll from China with Chinese dresses. And I would always recreate that scene, and then I would also have a dollhouse, and I would recreate that scene of her running across the top of the roof at the end and jumping off and the fireworks exploding. I wouldn't do the fireworks part, but you get what I mean. I would play that. So I loved Mulan. The timing was actually kind of everything started happening. It's probably because, they were trying to ramp up to advertise for the live action Mulan. So earlier I had listened to a Disney soundtrack thing, and I'll Make a Man Out of You came on, and I was singing at the top of my lungs, and then literally I'm not usually emotional, but when it got to the last part of the refrain, when she is literally climbing up the pole because she was sent home and she needed to prove herself that she needed to be here even though she could have gone home, and she was climbing up and everyone was watching her, and then I was imagining her throwing the arrow down right in front of Shang, and I started getting teary-eyed. I was oh my god, you go, girl. And then it was funny, a couple days later I watched the honest trailer to Mulan, and I was listening to what they were saying and the criticisms, and it was funny too. I think I watched another video. I'll have to try to find that other video as well about criticizing Mulan, and I was kind of first of all, holy crap, yeah, there's a lot of problems in Mulan. I was agreeing with most of the stuff, but then when they got to criticizing I'll Make a Man Out of You, that actually kind of hit me, and I was I think one of the videos said something about the obligatory man song or something. The obligatory, need to be masculine song. And I was kind of excuse me, that is not what this song is about. On the surface, you would think so, that basically, this story is saying, women need to be men. But as a young girl watching this, I was 8 years old, watching this movie, that's not what I got from it. And I kind of started realizing that, like, a lot of the criticisms with I'll Make a Man Out of You specifically, like, people were kind of missing the point. So I just kind of wanted to put my my thoughts out there. I kind of wanted to defend the song. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to say there are a lot of problems with Mulan. That is clear. White directors who have no idea of Chinese culture. White voice actors who, like, why? Stereotypical songs about the female side of the culture that, again, the people who made it had no idea anything about. Villains being extreme Asian stereotypes. I am ignorant to really any type of Chinese culture. I would love to know more. And I'm not lumping this in together, but, you know, I do love learning more about Asian culture in general. So I'm not approaching this video from a cultural or, you know, Chinese point of view, because obviously I know nothing. I know nothing about that. And I'm not doing this video erasing those problems, because those are really, really big problems that we need to address as a culture. But I specifically want to approach the song I'll Make a Man Out of You from a female point of view, and also a little girl point of view watching it, because that's something I do know a little bit about. And the experience that people are kind of showing that song is not the experience I have. So I just want to get that out of the way. I welcome any opinion. I'm not saying Honest Trailer was wrong or the other videos. I am definitely not saying that. I am not arguing. Well, I mean, I'm just kind of putting my point of view out there. But everyone is entitled to their own opinion. People know a lot more stuff than I do. So this is just us talking and having an open dialogue. Okay, going back. Watching the video, I was kind of like, oh my god, I cannot believe I missed all of these issues in this movie that I love and grew up loving, but I was like really able to see them. They were like clear as day, and I was like, yeah, that's totally true. But yeah, like I said, I took issue with the Be a Man song and criticizing that, because I think people miss the actual meaning of the song. The actual meaning is not telling women or men, that's important, to be a man, and that a man is only swift as a coursing river. I need to look up the words. Have all the force of a great typhoon and all the strength of a raging fire. And we can see that in how they sync up actions with the music. So, to get started, I just want to point out, so, you know, obviously there are 3 other friends. There's Yao, Ling, and Chen Po. Yao's the manly one, who is always trying to get into a fight. Ling is the ladies' man, and Chen Po is the bigger guy who enjoys food. And I want to point out that, first of all, in general, no one under Shang's leadership is a man. He's trying to make a man out of everyone, and all of them are failing at being a man. So even though we have all of these characters who are actually men, they have different weaknesses that are apparently not man-like. So even though Mulan is a woman, or she is really a woman, even though Mulan's a woman, the song isn't directed at making a man out of a woman. I wanted to point out some scenes that kind of reflect each of the characters' strengths and weaknesses. So when we're first introduced, we see Yao punched a man in the stomach, and then Mushu tells Mulan to punch him in the stomach to, like, that's how you make friends as a man. A stereotypical thought, but not completely accurate. But it's funny because we see Yao really exuding this masculine identity, and yet when Mulan punches him, he goes flying into Chen Po. So, like, kind of seeing that he's not as strong as he's letting on. Oh, and then we kind of are led on to Chen Po's personality, is that he, you know, is a huge guy, can be completely imposing, intimidating, and yet he's the one who is calming down Yao and saying you need to be centered. So you have this stereotypical looking masculine man with a less stereotypical lease on life of just going with the flow and calming down. So here we are, we're already seeing two types of men who are not up to man standards, and yet they are men. So then he shoots the arrow up and has everyone has to go up and get it, but he's tying weight to their arms. And even the manliest man, Yao, can barely even lift up the weights on his arm, therefore not meeting the criteria of being a man. And even the strongest man, Chen Po, can't get it, which, I'm sorry, he picked up a horse, a man, and a woman falling off of the side of a mountain during an avalanche. I think he could probably get the arrow, but the point of it is that getting the arrow is not all about brute strength, which parallel being a man is not all about brute strength. So anyways, they go through the a montage, obviously, and she's like, they put Ling puts a scorpion in her back and she knocks everyone down. So again, this whole, you know, battalion of men, of real men, are not living up to these the expectations of what a man is. No one can hit Shang with rocks. They can't catch fish. And then they kind of go through everyone's weaknesses, is that Chen Po says that he can't catch his breath. So, you know, he's out of shape. He's not able to keep up. Yao is falling all over the place and is clumsy. And Ling can't break a block his head. And he even talks about how he used to skip gym. So it's kind of implying Ling is skinny, he's geeky, he is not like athletic, so he's also not a masculine person in this group. As we're going through this, we're realizing that there are all types of men, different aspects of masculinity that is important to being a man. And that's when they timed the last, or the second to last, be a man part with her trying to climb up the pole. And in that moment, instead of, again, using brute strength, which we have known before, that isn't going to work in this situation. She can't use her strength because that's just not something she is strong at. That's not one of her strengths. But her ingenuity is one of her strengths. We can see this with her when they were chasing after her. She ran through the tent and hid, and they ran past her. And she does other things throughout the movie. So at that moment, when it said be a man, she crosses the weights and is able to climb up through her intelligence and smarts. And that is an aspect of... So then after she gets the arrow, we go through another montage of each of the men overcoming their weaknesses and becoming a man. It's not necessarily about being a man. The song's less about forcing people to go into the narrow idea of what a man is, and instead is focusing on broadening the idea of a man and overcoming weaknesses and embracing strength, and that being okay, because ultimately Mulan becomes a man even though she's not. And I think people forget this part, is that that song is not just specifically to that moment in time. The song starts playing again when they're trying to save the emperor. And it starts when the men are trying to use their brute force to get into the save the emperor. And again, Mulan uses her ingenuity to sneak in instead of just crashing in. And then, I mean, it's silly, obviously, but it's also a cartoon, you know, and then Be a Man starts playing and they're all women. And they use their little scarves to climb up the pole, but then to kind of mirror people overcoming their weaknesses, Shang comes in to help them, therefore acknowledging that being a man is not just about brute strength, and being a man has nothing to do with being a hero. And again, I think this is reflected, the big scene that I talked about when she is on the roof fighting Shan Yu, the Hun. He, you know, comes out with brute force with a sword, and he's like, what you got? And she pulls out a delicate feminine fan to fight him against a sword. And he's like, that's not gonna happen. But we see then he cuts through the fan, she grabs it, she uses her ingenuity and, you know, wrenches the sword out of his hand. So we're seeing, like, through all of this, Mulan is being told, A, she's not good enough because she's a woman. She's not good enough because she's not a good enough woman. She's not good enough being a child because she's not a man. She's not good enough to be a soldier because she's not a man. And so throughout this whole time, she's being told, you're not fitting into this idea. And then towards the end, you're being told there's different ways to be yourself and also be a hero. So that is my 2 cents of Be a Man. It's just a song that is, like, close to me. I just didn't believe that was, as a kid, I didn't think that I was being told to be a man. I was being told that, like, look, this woman is kicking all the men's butts, and these men are growing. So I just wanted a different perspective from a woman about being a man. Thanks, guys. I love you.